questions during our
Welcome to
tour
week
today,
10
be sure to type them in the comments and we'll be happy to
Hump
answer
Day
them.
history. Today we are featuring Christ Episcopal Church, which has a long history in Austin. We're going to hear from Sue Grove and Father John Sullivan. So we will see and hear much about this beautiful church.
At the big red doors of the Episcopal Church.
You couldn't quite hear Randy. We're headed to the front doors, which are the red doors in front of the church.
See, if the Catholic church bells are ringing, then it's noon, right?
Yeah, they're on. We're a little early. They have a better clock.
Well, welcome everyone. This is Randy from the Historical Society, but I'm going to let Sue introduce our speakers today. They can introduce themselves, and we'll get started here at Christ Episcopal Church.
Hi, take this down so you can hear me. I'm Sue Grove. Coincidentally, I'm Vice President of the Moore County Historical Society, and I'm the Senior Warden here at Christ Episcopal Church. We use English terms, hence warden. And John Sullivan is our priest.
Hello.
And we welcome you to our little visit of our church. So please note the red doors. That indicates an Episcopal church, and it's a sign of welcoming.
Yes.
Okay, so anywhere you go in the country or in England or the world, you'll see red doors on an Episcopal church. So this is our second building. As many of you know, our second one, the most famous one, the little white church, is on the grounds at the Historical Society. And of course, here comes a noisy car. So our original church was over by where Wells Fargo is today, and we moved here in October. The groundbreaking was October 10th, 1950, on lots that were donated by Harry Smith and Kate Stacy, who is Harry's sister. And do you want to go that way first? And we have community gardens that they're going to show you, so that in August we can give free vegetables. We've been doing that the last 3 years. And we've also given eggs. This year we're not quite sure how we're going to do distribution. It depends on the situation at the time. But we also owned 2 lots. I think this is still one of them, but some of our property was taken when the remodel of the high school happened. So we'll go over here and I'll show you the cornerstone. I'll try to hold the tree back. You'll see it's 1862 when the first service was held in Austin for an Episcopal church. 1866 when we actually became a congregation, and then 1951 when this building was started. That's when the cornerstone was laid. And in the cornerstone there is a cross, a Bible, a Book of Common Prayer, and the record of the founders of the church. So another big donor for having this church was Scoville, J.S.R. Scoville. So that name sounds familiar to a lot of us. So shall we go in, John?
Yeah, let's come on in. Welcome.
We'll go in first.
That's great. So anyway, as I said, the cornerstone was laid in 1951 in November. The first service was August of 1952. And then in October of 52, the dedication ceremony happened. But the building fund started in 1942, and the first donation was by Minnie Harvey. And the cost of this structure at the time was $225,000. And it wasn't absolutely everything, but it was the structure and many of the things in the church. Then in April of '53, they started another building fund to raise $60,000 more. That was to finish the sanctuary, help with the growing church school, put in the new altar, and at the time there was a railing, but things have been remodeled since they moved the altar forward. John, maybe you could talk about that when we get up there. And then at that time we had a $50,000 loan. So they were trying to raise money to pay that off. And then in 1955 is when we acquired the lot next door. And then the rose window was installed, was installed in 1955. And what did I say, Randy? It cost $650. So we should probably have it valued now. I know church insurance has it valued. These three windows here were, the idea came in 1956 to buy them and dedicate them to our longtime priest, Father T.J. Williams. And they were actually installed in 1957.
Can't really see, but it does say that on the inscription.
Because of his service. I think that was about his silver anniversary.
Oh, it's for his ordination?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah, when he served as rector here
From
during the building project.
48, he
Right.
started.
To 1970, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. And the architect was Leroy Gardner, the same architect that did Queen of Angels and the Bandshell, the Lutheran church that's now at the Bandshell, and several others around the area. I know in Albert Lee he did that. But as I was going through some notes, I found that the vestry became disgruntled with him and actually drew up paperwork to fire him because they couldn't get a clear statement from him of the cost. So
We probably had between 800.
but you kept cutting out, so I was
My video, I was having issues on mine, so we were directing them to your site, because I stopped and started like 4 times. I
Yeah,
was
so
just
I
not getting a
uploaded
good
you on
connection.
my computer and kept you on the phone just to see what happened.
They're really fun videos, I gotta say.
Yeah, they are.
I've seen a couple
I
of
think
them.
it's great, so.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Well, I think sometimes people like, I don't know, I'm sure there's people in town who've never been in here, if you've never.
And then one other interesting thing that I discovered when we were doing our little preview yesterday was there's a dedication. I never noticed this. I'm in here all the time. The church was actually consecrated December 15th, 1959 by Bishop Hamilton Kellogg, and it was because the loan was paid off. So they had paid off that $50,000 loan and paid the total $225,000 by December of 1959. So that's pretty remarkable.
I guess at that
considering.
point they realized they were going to keep it.
Yeah, and you see, I love that he's got his seal and some of the purple. Okay, John, do you want to talk a little bit about the stations? What that is?
Well, yeah, so we are a Reformed Catholic. We're a Catholic church, so we a lot of times Episcopal churches have the Stations of the Cross. That's not typical of a Protestant church. So the Episcopal church kind of falls in between the two. We say we're Protestant and Catholic at the same time. So these were installed probably in the 90s, I would say, 1990s. They were not here when I was a kid growing up in this church, but probably a priest with the vestry's permission put those up. And so we offer stations during Lent, one time a year basically, but they're available to anyone, and we have a pamphlet over there for the stations.
Yeah, and then as you're walking up, you'll notice the stained glass on the sides of the church, the walls, and they cost anywhere between a tiny one at $175, some were $310, some were $427. Screens to protect them were $440.
And I think you said there's 12 of them. It's the 12 apostles, correct?
That's right.
That's right. and the exterior, by the way, are brick and cement block faced with Lannon stone. Yeah, and somebody kept all the information about the cost of every single item for insurance purposes. So I could tell you what the cruets cost, the boiler, the I mean, it's remarkable. We came across that not too long ago.
Hi Val, thank you for commenting and thanks for
You want to do the baptismal font?
being interested in each of these every week.
We're gonna do we'll come over here to the baptismal font.
We don't unfortunately know when this was given to the church or dedicated to the church. It's a memorial font. There are memorials written on the font. I believe this is some sort of marble, but I'm not sure. This came from the old white church and came over to this building.
Does the top move?
The top comes off, right. So typically when we don't have a service happening, especially Holy Eucharist, this stays closed. And right now we don't have any water in the font at this point, but yeah, that comes off typically during Holy Eucharist, otherwise it stays closed. This used to be the site of our pulpit. So we had a large pulpit on this side. We took that out because if you sat on this side of the church, you couldn't really see what was happening up front at the altar with the pulpit was quite large. So we removed that in 2006 maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Well, and interestingly enough, that was not part of the original church.
Right.
It was added later, so it wasn't really desecrating what had been here before.
Oh, that's true.
So, and then over in this alcove was a little chapel, and for some of our less formal services or evenings, one of our members, Lloyd Amick, built that little altar, and it's on wheels, so we can bring it out here and have a more intimate setting.
This is the baptistry. So
Oh, yeah.
So our baptismal font sat in here. Back in the day when baptisms were more private affairs, families would come in just on their own, and their children would be
And I
baptized.
believe the image on the window is John the Baptist.
That's right, yeah, Jesus being baptized, yeah. So, but then, with liturgical renewal, we moved the baptismal font out. It became part of the congregation celebration, so.
Yeah, and so I think when I started here in the 70s, it was in the back of the church. Actually, I was right inside the door. So,
You know something about those windows?
those windows are the, oh my God, you lost my note.
How much did they cost? I think they were $300 a piece.
Thank you. I think $320 each panel, but they're the,
It's the Annunciation and
visitation.
Visitation, and then on the left is,
Sorry guys, somehow I did a selfie and now I don't know how to turn it back around.
Oh,
That's
well,
never
I
happened
see.
before.
Any-
so then the birth of Christ, and then on the right is the
Oh, there we go.
crucifixion, the resurrection, and the ascension.
Right. And they were each $320.
That's hard to believe,
I know, and
In the 50s? Is that when?
even in the 50s.
yeah,
But
that 1952. So they were a memorial. The Sturman is the name they were dedicated to. So.
they're beautiful windows, beautiful shapes, but they are small. They're
Mhm.
small.
They're not that wide.
Yeah, they're not that wide.
So-
But that's kind of it's Gothic inspired, right? So.
Well, and then if you
Narrow
look at
windows.
This
it,
one got a good picture of the
The rose window.
now.
that was 1955. That was $660. And then the light fixtures are bishop's mitres. They're bishop's caps. So.
Yeah.
Representation. And then I think you had the cross on the altar, or behind the altar in before, And that was actually purchased in August of 1960 it's silver and brass, and it was a memorial to one of the earlier priests, the Reverend G.H. Tenbrock.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so,
He was a well-beloved priest.
yes.
Really energetic and did a lot for the community and for children.
So. Anyway, John, do you want to explain or say anything about?
Well, so you'll see this in a lot of churches, you know, the light shining. That means that there's consecrated host in the aumbry or the tabernacle. And so that's off during a small part of Lent, right? Good Friday, it's off. Actually Monday, Thursday, and then it's off until Sunday morning, or actually Easter Vigil on Saturday evening. Yeah, that's something you see you'll see that at St. Augustine's, you'll see that at St. Olaf, you'll see that at the historic traditional churches.
Okay, I think we're gonna go into the,
And we have both an organ which is electric, but it's voiced of a cathedral in England. So it's quite remarkable. And then we have a piano, of course. So
Yeah, that's not original, obviously.
No.
This was put in quite recently, actually.
yeah,
It's a beautiful organ, really nice.
12 years? It's 12 years now.
12 years?
Because we had the repair person come and replace a switch in it, and he said they don't usually live this long. So here's where you can see where we added an addition from 2000 to 2003. This was the original entrance archway to the church office area.
Yeah, this was the door, right?
So the door was there was this archway, and we'll see a picture of that. So the windows over here used to be the outside, of course, of the church. But we were able to take some of the windows that were not being used, or in the new structure, got eliminated, and use them in other places. And then many of you may have heard of the first bishop of the Diocese of Minnesota, Bishop Henry Benjamin Whipple. And he became the bishop in 1859, and he remained until he died in 1901. And he was very, very important in relations with the native populations in Minnesota. And he earned a lot of fame from the story of the Dakota 38, because he pleaded with President Lincoln, and Lincoln then pardoned 265 other native people, strictly on Whipple's recommendation. So they hung 38, but anyway. And then we're gonna go into the Guild Hall for a minute, which is our living room. And in there, you'll see a statue of his first wife, Cornelia. So this is part of the old structure, the original structure, as we're walking here. I should probably put one here. So, in this room we do.
there, and then I can get the.
Oh, okay. This room we do rent in normal conditions for people to have showers or birthday parties or whatever. And then
Here's the statue.
there's Cornelia, and then those are quite the thing, and we have the distinction of having 3 of them for some reason. I don't even know where the other 2 are. But then if you want to see the picture up on top of the mantle, and that's a real wood-burning fireplace. Why they did those, I really don't know.
On the picture, you can see
Yeah.
you can see the arches there
Right.
from the original
I'm
structure.
trying to get a picture of it without the glare. There
Oh,
we go.
yeah. And again, this was one of the 1951, 52 rooms. And there's a small kitchen off of this room that a former parishioner, shortly as they were leaving, gave us money to remodel, so it's very up to date. So this is a well-used room, and we have a summer project going on, sorting out the library. So, we've got.
You think we're gonna go upstairs now?
And then one other thing about the addition out here, it was a justice issue, we felt, because we have so many levels. So for the tune of $2 million, in 2003 it was dedicated, but we added an elevator, and more office space, a meeting room that we rent out upstairs, and a kitchen. We have a commercial kitchen now. So we'll go upstairs just to see one thing.
But it's worth seeing.
Yeah. So this, again, is part of the original structure, and this is our Sunday school room, which we now call our godly playroom. It's a system where the leader tells a story, and the children are very involved, and there are all these manipulatives. And so there's even a sandbox that's the desert, and it's a fantastic program, but we're here to talk about the structure. So this is the children's altar, and it was redone, refurbished by Tyler Amick as a 4-H project. So he did a wonderful job. And I don't know who that was.
Sue, where was this originally?
That was a children's altar in the old church.
In the old church.
From what I can tell from our notes.
We have a picture of that old church inside during
Mhm.
Christmas somewhere.
Yeah, it's in the ladies' room.
Oh, yeah.
So. Anyway, okay, so now we're gonna go down to see the basement.
Now we're going all the way to the basement.
But everybody watching wasn't expecting.
So if anybody's got any questions while we're traveling downstairs, be sure to type them in the comments field and we'll get to them.
Yeah, and we have a wonderful meeting room over here that is, we rent out, so, that they are having a meeting right now. I take you in there because there's, a door, it's the original door to the office building. It's even got the mail slot in it, and a stained glass window of Jesus. So we call it our Jesus closet. And many of you have been down here for our sauerkraut dinner, sauerkraut and pork chop.
There better be some thumbs up about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Or maybe a love instead of just a like. The sauerkraut lovers.
Elaine wants to know, will sauerkraut be made?
We don't know, it's looking doubtful.
We're considering maybe takeout only sauerkraut this year on a limited basis, but
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Everything.
When do you normally have the
everything
event?
First,
October?
First Monday evening in October.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as I said, this was part of the $2 million project. The kitchen was. It was unbelievable. There was this flower child wallpaper and sinks, and I mean, so we are now one of the official commercial kitchens in town, and we have rented them out as well.
Yeah.
So, and this is where it happens. This, as you can tell, is part of the old church. And they, there's a note in the history of when they put this paneling on. And then along that wall are all the priests except our current one.
Well, these are rectors.
They're priests.
Yeah, they're priests, but officially rectors, so.
So do you want to say what the distinction is?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
A rector has canonical authority that a priest in charge does not.
Yep.
They're more permanent fixture. And I am neither. I'm a priest, by the way. So our church functions under a slightly different kind of model. We're all volunteer, including our priest. We have a team of lay people, and right now one clergy person, and we manage the church and the ministry of the church together. Whereas a rector has a lot of, they would have more say about all the management and ministry happening. Yeah, so Catherine Lemons, the last photo on the wall, that was our last official rector.
And our first and so far only woman.
Yes,
When were women allowed to take on that role?
mid-70s, officially,
Yes. So,
in the Episcopal Church in the United States. So I think the first women were ordained in, was it 74? I can't remember.
I can't remember. There's going to be a documentary coming out soon,
Yeah.
but Jeanette Picard was one. She went to my aunt's church in the cities, and her husband was one of the famous scientists in, hot air ballooning.
Wow, interesting.
Jean-Luc Picard.
Oh, does anybody else have any questions?
If anyone watching have any questions at all?
Sue's gonna take us through a secret door now. This is like a secret passageway. Where is it gonna take us?
Ooh. Hang on tight. This reminds you of Europe. Voila!
And here we are, at the very beginning.
So, and as John said, it is rather a Gothic style. And those of you who go to the the Bandshell Park and sit in the pavilion, if you sit there and you look up, it looks remarkably like this building.
Yeah.
So, I always feel at home there.
And I don't, did you mention about Queens?
Queens, it's the same architect as Queens, and there are some rumors that, they had the stone at the same time. We don't know, but it is the same kind. So, anyway, that's our beautiful church.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you for
Yeah,
having
it's our
us.
pleasure, our pleasure. We like to show off our building, it's a gem,
It's beautiful.
yeah.
And the original is out at the Historical Society grounds, right,
Little
Randy?
church on the corner, correct.
Which was actually our second building.
The second. And what were the dates of that?
Oh, that's a good
Anybody
question.
know?
Why?
The stumper.
1952 is the end.
19,
No.
was it 1900s, wasn't it?
Oh shoot,
I
I
can't remember.
can't remember.
We'll find that out and
Yes,
tell you
we'll put it
later.
on, Yeah.
Yeah, put it in the comment section.
Or on
There you
the
go.
next tour of the Historical Society, maybe you can find out.
Yeah.
Yes, that'll be more appropriate. He told me not to say too much because they are going to do that one during the fair.
We're gonna do a tour of that in August.
Oh, perfect.
So I didn't want to let cats out of the bag.
Well, thank you for
Okay.
visiting.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks everyone, thanks for watching and commenting, and make sure to give us a like.
Where are we gonna be next week, Amanda?
Next week, we have an exciting one. We're gonna go and tour Sweets Hotel. So I don't know how many people have been there. I know they're in the process of reopening. Is their reopen date the day we're there? The July 1st? Oh, we're not sure. I'll put rambling. Anyway, tune in next week at noon. Today we were supposed to have Marcus and Park tour, but we had to reschedule. So that moved to July 8th. Probably weather dependent. So anyway, thanks for watching. Next week at noon on Wednesday we'll be at Sweets Hotel.